issue is that some of us miss because we don't have an eye for that kind of detail, or we don't have training in those kind of financial issues. So I just want to speak out very definitely against honoring anything that comes out of Palatine Ready to Grow. It's just too nasty a sight.
There's quite a bit of historical information here, and I can't judge whether it's factual or defamatory or what. I don't know. We have an ethics committee that certainly could sort this out and recommend to the board if they wanted to, or fail to recommend anything.
Well, I think, Bill, I think we have to make a distinction between political speech, which can be pointed, critical, reasoned, or sometimes not reasoned. We have a history in this town of contending actively. Basically, at the last meeting, which was the, the overall planning context, I said that actually the fact that we're somewhat contentious in this town is positive, because it means that there's a lot of activity. But sometimes it gets too rough, and we've all seen this before. We saw this prior to 2016. We saw an explosive board that screamed at people in the audience. Some of the co-signers of that letter were involved in doing this, as a matter of fact. So I think we have to make an important distinction between political speech and getting someone. And I don't want to see any individual on this board, including people that would be on the other side of some of the issues from me, gotten. I think that's not the way we do politics in the United States.
Okay. Any other opinions?
Well, I'd say we refer this to the ethics board and then go from there. Let them do their recommendations, or if it has to, send it to the attorney. I mean, there's sheriff's reports and everything else involved here.
I agree with Sean. I think a lot of this is factual, because a couple things pertain to me. And I just think that we've received a lot of complaints from not only our highway workers, but there's been county workers, now state workers have been involved. And we just, something has to be done about it. It's an embarrassment and a poor example for a member of our town board.
Well,
And I believe it could be misconstrued as the misuse of, maybe I'm not using the right word, but political power.
there are violations of the law in this letter, okay?
In the letter from the,
From Sandra McCullough and Deb Carey.
well, that's not evidence, though. That's just an opinion by a couple of people.
It's not my place to look for evidence. This was brought to me, it was addressed to me. I want to bring it in front of the board and let the board decide what to do with it. Now, that is related through Chris Novak to the next item here, which is the police report. On June 27th, approximately 1950, I responded to the town of Palatine, where Mr. Novak was removed from the meeting. And then Mr. Novak decided to misrepresent what went on to an Association of Towns employee. Well, I would just assume that go to our ethics board.
Yeah, you've already drawn a conclusion which may not be true.
Let the ethics board sort it out.
That's what we have one for.
It's not an ethical violation.
If that's the case, our ethics board will say so.
Yes, they will.
Yep. Okay, next we have a letter for Mr. Arthur Logan about a board member stepping in front of a payloader and trying to exercise authority over him. that actually happened. Okay? Those three items, I guess you might just as well say we could consider them all together. They're all related. And then another one that I just got today, an email from Mr. Quackenbush, who is the negotiator for the union, where we're presently negotiating with the union involving our highway employees. I'll read it to the board. I hope all is well. This is from Mr. Quackenbush to me. I saw Chris Novak at Palatine Stewart's a few weeks back. He informed me that you or the board or whoever designated him and Michael Richardson to handle the upcoming contract negotiations for the highway department employees that I represent through the Teamsters. I have not heard from him since and can't seem to find his email. I would like to get started as soon as possible, as I know your budget process is just around the corner. By the way, I have talked to our side and we had very few requests. The length of the agreement, wages, and maybe one other clarification item. I am confident you and I could sit down and in 20 minutes have something to present to both sides. Please advise who we'll be negotiating with, and I hope you received the health information also I dropped off. I made an inquiry there about health insurance. We had an executive session at the last meeting. We went into executive session and discussed options of dealing with the union. I do not recall this board or anybody here saying that Chris Novak was authorized to deal with the union.
Excuse me,
Am
before
I-
you put
No,
words in my
you're-
mouth, you can get.
You're out of
I
order.
am not out of order, sir. Okay?
You're out of order.
Please continue.
I will, not at your permission, just because I have the floor. All right? I don't recall in that executive session giving anybody authority to negotiate with the union. Now, Mr. Quackenbush would like some kind of an indication from this board who he should negotiate with. I would love to hear a resolution introduced saying how we are going to negotiate with the union.
One point before we continue on to that.
Okay.
The point is that in many senses, Chris and I are a minority here that was replaced by a majority at the last election. The pointed attacks on Chris, which seem to be orchestrated, in other words, they don't seem to be, it doesn't seem like a coincidence that they all come together at this point on this evening, seem to me political. And I think it's a bad idea because what it will say to this board or any board upcoming is, hey, you know, if you want to, you really want to get the other side, you know, pick out a member that's vocal and clamor on, you know, and I don't think this is the way we should be doing things. I think that what Chris has done might be a little obnoxious at times, I don't know, but you don't, you know, you don't try to like basically take somebody off the board because they're abrasive, you know, and they're useful in that abrasiveness, I find.
It's fine. Let me make this clear, and we can check back to the tape. At the previous meeting, I was asked to get a hold of Michael Richardson. In the meantime, I went and had coffee at Stewart's and ran into Tom. And I said, hey, the board told me to get a hold of Michael. I hope we'll be talking to you soon. That's all I said. I didn't make any representations or anything. For you to paint that however you want is fine. If you want to make a resolution, I don't care what is written there. I'm telling you how it happened. And every story has two sides. That's fine. So you can hold that up all you want. And I don't think I've made any overtures to Mr. Quackenbush. Do you have any correspondence from me saying I'm handling this? Do you have an email? Do you have anything from me? No. We met and had coffee, and I said Michael Richardson, exactly what came out in there. So, unless you have...
Can I highlight on this?
Yeah.
First of all, we talked about it in executive session. That's where it stays, is in there.
Actually,
By talking about it out in the coffee shop, you violated the
no,
executive session.
I haven't, because we said in public, and we can go back to the meeting minutes, where you said, the supervisor asked me to contact Mr. Richardson, which he's sending a contract if it's not here already, to see what he has this year, which is exactly what I just said to Mr. Quackenbush. I didn't say we're negotiating, I didn't say anything.
Yeah, but
Okay, what I think just happened is our supervisor relayed information that probably should have been kept in the executive session about what the union's asking for in a public meeting. So that, I would think, would be more than anything. Just telling Tom, hey, we're gonna work on something to get it, and he said, hi, how are you, and we passed by, is not the same as actually revealing information in a very public way. And whatever the board's pleasure is, I think it would be folly not to have an experienced union negotiator, but whatever the board's resolution wants to make is fine with me.
Okay, the whole pile of papers. The union representative who doesn't know who he's negotiating with. And I've known Tom for a long time, he doesn't lie. First, let's deal with the whole thing as a whole. I would recommend it get sent to the ethics board, and our town attorney has indicated to me the town's interest would be best served by getting another attorney, because one of the incidents Mrs. Dunn orchestrated completely. I followed her directions, and she would love to be a witness. So we can send it to the ethics board. They have many options. If it is not within their realm, they can recommend it, sending it to another attorney. They can send it back to the board for the board to act on. They have a lot of options. So it's not like the politics are leaving the boardroom. Let the ethics board weigh in. That's what they're for. And we'll address it at next month's meeting. I'm in no hurry. I have no vendetta. But this kind of stuff has got to stop. And what we will do, as I have recommended to each town official, every time someone steps beyond their authority or what they should be doing, with our highway department or otherwise, call the police and let's do an incident report. People can be arrested. The town law is very, very concise about a board member having no administrative authority and no authority at all outside the boardroom.
Well, could it mean that you could gather facts from citizens?
Yeah, I would make a motion that we send this whole thing to the ethics board. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm abstaining.
Okay. Should be. All right.
Mr. Supervisor, since you're done with correspondence, I'd like to give you this. You asked me at last month's meeting, I have copies for everyone, that if you needed an expert to know the rules, that I should get one. This is Kay Hodgson. She's the attorney for the Association of Towns. She would come here, but it would cost us a lot of money. So I asked her list of questions.
She said she would come here?
Yes, if the
Oh, how
town would
much
like to
money?
be sued.
How much money?
Well, it depends what the hourly rate is for the attorneys, but let's just say, Kate.
No, let's not get beyond that subject. I want a letter from her saying she will come here and what the cost.
Sir.
There's no need of
Sir,
doing any of the
yeah, there is, because we're in very serious problems here, and the first one
No,
is,
we're not.
in a town of our size with the make,
Chris.
I'm allowed to speak.
Yes, you are. The question on the table is, this attorney, you indicated this attorney would come here. This attorney is from the Association of Towns.
Yes.
I had a very lengthy discussion with them this month. They
Good.
would do theoretical stuff for us, but as to the application of the law, they will not render a decision.
She just did here, so I think you're mistaken because I asked questions here and says exactly what the question is. In a town our size with the makeup of a 5-member board, how many votes does it need to pass a resolution? Right here, it stated 3, which means all the resolutions we passed back in the month of May, when we had 3 members of a board for certain things, including dissipating the capital reserve fund, are not passed. The resolutions fail.
Okay, what was the resolution at that meeting where you brought that question up? What did we decide to do?
To disband the capital reserve fund.
Chris,
To
I'm
discontinue-
saying, what did we decide to do about those motions
All those
that you
mo-
had the questions
All
on?
those motions are out there now, including, we're not done, but they stop everything
Chris,
from going
we
forward.
had a board meeting.
Yes.
And at that board meeting, you questioned it. And I told you I would wait until Mrs. Dunn tells me what to do. And I'm still there.
Sir,
This is
they
not
did not
necessary.
pass. It's not what someone tells you to do. They didn't pass, which means we can't go forward, which means all the subsequent work we did, including bringing agreements for investment policy and anything else, does not matter because we didn't have a passing resolution. On top of...
Mrs. Dunn will return her opinion to us, and when she does, we will take whatever action is appropriate. That's what we decided at the board meeting.
Okay. Sir, let me continue on here.
No.
Thank you.
You're out of order,
There's
pal.
no such thing as being out of
No,
order.
no.
It says here in Rule 63,
No,
and I'll be
no,
able to
no,
hand this to the press.
Go ahead,
It says
hand it to
here
the press.
that any board member may speak at the meeting. You do not have unilateral authority.
You're out of order, Chris.
If you, please,
You're out of order.
you know, I'm not out of order. You can pound that all day long.
Call
I'm
the
allowed to
sheriff.
speak. If you call the sheriff,
We're gonna call the sheriff.
okay. This town is heading for real problems
We're
here
gonna call the
because
sheriff.
there is nothing for you to call the sheriff on here. I am allowed to speak.
You are allowed to be disruptive.
I'm not being
And you
disruptive. It was my turn to present.
And you are allowed to continue talking when the gavel has been dropped and you're told you're out of order. Is that what you're saying?
Sir, there is no such thing as unilateral authority on your rules of
Are you
procedure.
gonna answer my question, or you're just gonna feed more crap?
It's not more crap. It says here, okay, it says here about rules of procedure because you said you have unilateral rules of procedure. I'm telling
Yes.
us we're breaking
I don't
the
remember
law.
hearing unilateral. I
You
don't
said
remember
that in the
hearing
last
that
meeting.
at all.
As a matter of fact, several of our
Unilateral.
local papers printed the word unilateral authority.
They talked to you after the meeting, and a lot of the stuff they're printing might not have happened at the meeting, or there might have been something a little bit different. Mr. Sullivan is going to cover that in a letter to you, okay? I sent him down a zip drive of your performance at the May 12th meeting, and he doesn't seem to think there was any violation.
There's
the
a lot of
open-
violations.
the open, God, you're even impolite. You're out of order. Shut your mouth,
You keep that down.
okay?
Please
That's the way it
continue.
is.
So in other words, it just matters what you say, not what the law is.
Chris, don't try to put words in my
No,
mouth.
because that's what it seems like
It's
here,
not-
because I brought you the law to help this town.
You're out of order. Okay? Okay. When Mrs. Dunn tells us what to do about those resolutions, whether they are valid or whether they aren't, they will come back to the table and we'll address it.
Well, sir, then I'd like to point out number 4 from K. Hodgson at the
I'm not
Association of
interested
Towns,
in.
which says that once we ban public comment, you may not have public comment.
No, that's incorrect.
It's
I
not
don't
incorrect.
care.
So you don't care what the lawyer says,
I
and
don't-
Bob Freeman from the Council on Open Government.
No, because you baited them. You didn't tell them the truth.
Oh, but
You were removed for your behavior. You weren't removed for
public
procedural
comment.
error.
I'm talking about public comment only.
Public comment, you're wrong. You misunderstood what we did.
Oh, really? So I misunderstood that we banned public comment in a resolution.
No. You see, you misunderstand.
We banned public comment in a
banned
comment.
public comment. under the home rule law, which is the Palatine law, which was passed for meeting procedures for the town of Palatine. And by doing away with that, we automatically revert to the state law. And the state law allows...
Sir, there's no such thing. It's clear here.
You're out of order. You interrupted me again, Chris.
You just keep hanging out. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's the way it is.
Okay.
I'm the supervisor, I run the meeting.
Actually, you preside over the meeting, but you do not run the meeting.
Oh,
It's
yes,
up
I
to
do.
the board to set the rules for meeting procedures.
That's right.
Okay, and since the board abdicated and vacated their responsibility at the organizational meeting, the meeting procedures go to the previous legislative body.
Boy, you can talk loud, you can talk over anybody.
Oh, no, I'm talking
You know,
so
well,
you understand this.
I'm glad I don't understand you at all, you're wrong. What we're gonna do here, we are going to adjourn the meeting because we're no longer able to conduct any business. That's, we're adjourned. Make a motion to adjourn. We're all done. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make the motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Carried.
Another month without getting anything substantial done on the agenda.
Now you can talk to the press without having to answer any.